Right, so it's mad that we're at episode 20 now, man. I've done 19, had 18 guests and then one myself at the start, and now we're at 20, which is crazy because I thought we'd get to. The original plan was to do 10 at the start, and then I was kind of see how it goes, but everybody's kind of taken to it, and it's been really fun. So it's kind of crazy to have came all the way here now. But the reason why I'm on my own is because I had quite a few people message me after the first podcast where I talked about some of my own experiences and how I was able to deal with some mental health issues that I was having with myself and how I felt about things and all that. And people wanted me to talk more about that kind of stuff and about my own sort of journey with it, with when it comes to mental health and the things I've experienced. So I thought about kind of another part to the story that I left out from the first episode because I felt as if it was a different bit that I would need to go down and a bit personal, and kind of I was a bit wary of sharing that side of it too soon. So I've sort of put off doing this one because it's kind of made me aware of, people are going to hear this, and you need to watch so you don't say something that's too in their face or too much or whatever the case. But I've seen so many people struggling with this pandemic and all the different issues that everyone's having that I just felt the need to kind of hopefully share something that could help somebody, really. Because I feel like the media and social media especially, you see so much negativity all the time, and it's all just always in your face about everything bad that's going on. And then you see people talking about suicide and depression and how much it's kind of taken over the majority of people I know, for sure. And I don't think there's enough people that have actually came through the other end of it that are saying to people that are struggling with it just now that you can get through it and you can beat it. But so I'm going to go through some of that, and to kind of start off, I wanted to talk about a kind of scenario that happened when I was younger that kind of helped me come through this. And what I mean by that is, in the first episode I spoke about different things from school and all these scenarios that I've felt about myself and stuff like that. But before all that, I had some, before that kind of happened that sort of made me feel bad about being in a wheelchair or whatever the case. I had some good experiences, believe it or not, and one of them's always stuck in my head. It's really all my life, really, and it was I think I was about, I don't know, I can't remember how young I was, but I was really young, maybe 5 or something, probably a couple of years older than that. But when I was younger, I couldn't get on a wheelchair myself. So what I do now is I come from my knees on the ground, not the chair, and it's no bother. But back then, I was just a wee guy, had no kind of strength, so I would get lifted up in the chair by whoever was in the house, and what would happen is he would come to the door, and how when you were younger, everyone would just knock on each other's door and you'd come out and play football or something. And so I would, one day, my parents came to my door for me and no one was in the house, and I was really upset. And I remember going in, the only one that was in was my nana. I was going to call her Gran now, right, because I feel like Gran's more socially accepted, but she was my nana, and I'm going to call her that. But I come in and I say to her, I can't, my pal's at the door, I can't get in there. How am I going to get outside? I'm really starting to tear up and stuff, and I can't, I'm just telling her I can't do this, I can't get in the chair. And she's like, she just smiles at me and she's like, of course you can. And I'm like, but I'm still thinking to myself, I'm not sure you know what you're talking about here, because I don't think I can get on this chair. And she took me into the living room, and we spent a good half an hour of me trying to pull myself onto this wheelchair. And she's still looking at me like, you can do this. You can do this. And I didn't really, even still, I was like, don't know. And I turned to her, I said, Nana, I don't think I can do this. But one thing I haven't mentioned yet is, and the reason why I'm wearing this t-shirt, is because she used to call me Superman, which was like a really cheesy thing, like, and I know that it's a really cheesy thing, but for whatever reason, she just kept saying it when I was younger. She just kept calling me that. She kept saying, Superman, you're Superman. And I was like, but this was the one day when I was like, it really kind of kicked in, and it really, she just looked at me dead seriously, right in my face, and was like, I don't call you that for no reason. Stop overthinking about it and just get on the chair. You know you can get in the chair. Get in the chair. And that was in the moment I realised that no matter how jelly my arms were at this point, or how much I thought I couldn't get in the chair, I wasn't going to be able to leave the room until she seen me get in the chair. So I don't know what happened in that moment, but I just pulled myself up and got in the chair. And from that day on, didn't have any problems. Every day was just fine. Just from that one day, I could get my chair, no problem. There was no training or anything, just that one day where she was just constantly going, you know, you can do this, you can get in this chair, and it's not about you being in a wheelchair, you can do anything. And she was always saying that to me. She was always saying, you can do anything. And, you know, that was a real positive thing. Had a really great effect on me from a young age, and helped me through different scenarios where I'd go, well, I was able to do it. I was able to do that one time. I was able to get in that chair when I thought I couldn't. You know, so it kind of started this process of me starting to believe that I could maybe do more things than I thought I could. And all throughout my life, she would just kept calling me that. Even as I got older, and we'd go out of town, she would just say, have a good night, Superman, and all that kind of stuff. And so as we're going through it, and I talked about it in the first episode, I started to, you know, as you get older, you start to realise why people maybe, like the disadvantages of being in a wheelchair, essentially, and how life isn't going to be particularly easy for you, and you're going to have different scenarios. And it took a toll on me. Not, you know, I turned to alcohol really heavily and other things, and I spoke about that before pretty openly. But there was a scenario that I spoke about in the first episode that really was like a big breakthrough moment for me, which was when I was at a beach on a kind of our school holiday type thing in Magaluf. And I was telling the story about how I'm looking at all my friends and how they're all talking about what they're doing with their life after school, and I'm sitting on this, you know, beach, and I'm thinking I'm sweating and I'm feeling terrible and I'm overweight and I just feel horrible in every kind of way. And I didn't really know what I was going to be doing, but I spoke about how on the beach I had this sort of moment where I decided that I was going to come back and do something different. But I didn't really dive into exactly what that was or why that happened. And really, to be honest, I remember exactly what it was, and it was thinking about the fact that she was 80 plus and she wasn't going to be here that much longer. And I was a total mess. I just knew I was a mess. I knew everybody knew I was a mess, and I knew it was only going one way. And I don't know what it was exactly, or why this happened to me, but all I knew was that I couldn't let her final sort of image of me be this whatever it was at that point. And so I made the point of saying to myself, I need to show her that I can be better than this. I can show her what she the way that she sees me, not the way that I see myself. So she was my whole purpose of getting off that beach that day, to go and kind of do better. So when I left that holiday and I started going to the gym and feeling great, and that few months after that holiday, I remember just feeling the best I'd ever felt in my life. First time I'd been active in the gym. First time I'd been looking after myself with what eating and just all my habits kind of thing. I was really on the ball and really enjoying life. And I remember going to football and feeling just being able to play better and do things sharper, all these types of things. And it was a great few months that I could feel that I was really getting on to something. That I couldn't. It felt like nothing was going to stop me at all. And I remember actually we were swimming. I was going swimming, and my nana had went on holiday to Portugal, but just before that we actually had a great day together at one of the football events, and it was like the last day we had where she was she could see me healthy and happy, and she was healthy and happy, and we got a great picture, and I'm really grateful for that, because that whole purpose of why I did what I did was for that moment, so, and it was luckily just in time, because that when she went on holiday, right after that trip, right after that day that I'm speaking about, she ended up having a heart attack. And I remember actually being in the swimming pool at the time, because my mum came rushing in and her face is chalk white, and I'm in the pool and I'm doing my usual routine. That I've got my same routine every day when I'm going to the gym, I'm going swimming, and I'm eating this and doing this at this time. And I'm really on the, I just remember being really on the ball with it all, and she comes running in, and that way as soon as you see her face, you know something's wrong. But I actually genuinely remember doing a length and stopping halfway through it, because I could just feel as if something had gone wrong. I didn't know what it was. But she came in, and then I knew that's when I was like, something's happened to you. But in my head, I'm kind of like that. Well, maybe it's the dogs. But as soon as it was like she was just crying the card stuff, I was like, oh. But I'm not even thinking about it. I'm like, it's not going to be that. It won't be that. It can't be that yet. That was genuinely my thought process, and I've kind of skipped past parts of the story because I'm a little bit more. I think I'm a little bit more nervous or tentative to tell this story because it's a bit difficult in a way, I suppose. But genuinely, like the night before that day, I remember just feeling great, feeling like I turned things around, and I had this thought. It was so weird looking back at it, because the timing of it is just incredible. Like, I remember sitting thinking to myself that, just, I'm not really religious particularly, but I was just felt dead thankful for the fact I was feeling great, and I was like, let's keep this going. This can only get better from here. This can only get more positive, and I'm only going to get more able to do better things. And I just felt thankful to whatever was out there helping me do it. It was the first time in my life I've ever done that. I was like, I can't believe I came back from that beach in Magaluf, and now I'm feeling good. I just dedicated myself for 3 or 4 months and just turned my back on all the bad things I was doing and really made a positive change. And I remember saying that, and the day after me saying that to myself, that whole incident happened where I'm in the pool and I get news that she's died. And I just remember thinking, like, surely this can't be happening right now, Like, I've always, like, I'm finally doing all right. I'm doing good, and now is going to be the point that you do this. But see, in hindsight, to be honest, I say that, but I'm quite glad it happened at that time in a way, because of the fact that I was in a better place, and maybe if I'd been in a worse place, it would have affected me even worse than it did, which affected me badly a lot. So, in a way, the timing of it, in that sense, might have saved me in a sense, but because it was always going to happen. But the way it happened, it was just not expected. We met each other, and she was healthy, I was healthy, and I said to her, enjoy a holiday and stuff, and it was just a pure freaky thing that happened to her over there. I know all the details, but there's no need to go into that. But I just remember kind of spiraling back out of control, because my whole sort of reason for doing everything I was doing that was positive was because of her, and because of that sort of deadline I had of knowing how life was going to end at some point soon. But we had that day at the football when we had it. It was like we had the games, and then we went to the kind of Clyde Wilshire player night, and she was there, and we got a great picture where I'm smiling and she's smiling, and I was like, just thankful that she's seen me as a better version of whatever I was from before. And that was her last kind of image of me is a good one, which is something that I'm very, very happy about, because it was the whole reason why I was doing it. But my life wasn't over, you know. It just kind of felt like that at the time. And so I didn't really know what to do. I remember we had a football game the next week after it, and I was kind of reporting to the team at that point. I think, well, if I'm being nice to myself, I'm always been important to the team, but at that particular point, we didn't have, there wasn't as many people that could move the ball as much or whatever, and I knew that I was important to this team, and we were really pushing that year. And those guys, when I've talked about before about how that when I was doing that fitness thing at the start of it all, they were also a big part of my focus, the guys at Pilcher Football, and how I wanted to give them my best, because everyone on my team, on my team now as well as back then, but back then, Peter O'Brien, and who's no longer with us, but Thomas McMahon, Johnny Burns, people like that, always just kind of being around them every day, every week, in a team, and then just feeling motivated by them and wanting to do kind of right by the team and give my best for them. And I remember just training as hard as I could and doing as much as I could, but I couldn't play. Like, I went to the games, and we had a game, and I did all right. I scored a goal, and then they took me off just because I was retained. But honestly, thank God they took me off, because I just remember feeling like my head wasn't in the game. And from there, you just go back into old habits. You go back into drinking too much and all these other things. And I think one of the big things that kind of got me back into that sort of mode was just not really having any idea of, like, I was still in the mindset of, because she passed away in Portugal, part of my head was still convinced that she was just going to knock on the door one day and be like, "Oh, you'll never believe what happened over there, man. It was crazy." So I would just go up and sit she stood up in the house above our house, so I'd go sit out at the back, and I would just sit there waiting for her coming down the stairs, which I knew wasn't going to happen, but just I couldn't sleep. And I think it's just because, you're like, can't end like that. It can't be. It's just you end up not doing these things. Of you think about the times where you didn't speak to her. She always enjoyed the chat. She would have been a great podcast guest for sure. But there was times when I was just younger and stupid and wanted to play PlayStation or something, and I didn't really fancy talking to her for 3 hours about the hairdressers or whatever. But you kind of look back at that a bit and you go, missed out on a lot there with those kind of conversations. And maybe that's something you can take from this as well, is don't take people for granted. I mean, I'm still doing it. I'm saying this, but I'm still doing it to people in my life just now, as we all do, because that's just what happens in life. It kind of takes you over and then you hit by these things. And it's just about being able to deal with them at the time. But I wasn't dealing with it. I was really not. And I remember the football, I was still trying my best, but it was just getting worse and worse, my routines and things. And what ended up happening was we missed out in the league, and then I missed the penalty in the shootout for the Scottish Cup. And I remember sitting, and I know that's probably, you probably don't know, most of you are probably like, what is wheelchair football and all that kind of stuff. But the point isn't really about whatever sport it was just my sport, and it's important to me, it's important to us, it's important. I knew how important it was to everybody, and everyone knew how important it was to me. And so I remember just missing that, and she would have been there, and I just felt like if she was there, I would have scored it. Do you know what I mean? So I remember just thinking, I'm going to take some time out here and just sort of figure out what I'm doing, because I was kind of sitting in the middle of the pitch. It's always a lonely spot, that, when you miss the deciding penalty. And I you just stand there for a bit. Well, in this case, you're sitting, obviously. But try to make some laughs in this really super serious episode of mental health care. But I'm trying to kind of make sure I don't go too off the rails, because it's just difficult to talk about a lot of this stuff as well, and I'm human, so. But that's like that moment. I just remember it all felt like it was too much for me, and I took, during the summer, it was mad. It was really bad. Just overly drinking, and now with the football off, it was like off the rails completely, kind of thing, with no reason in my head to kind of turn it around or anything. And when I talked about that kind of story right at the back, right from the start, about how she influenced me and how she made me feel that kind of way, I'd forgotten about that almost. You just forget, because life just sort of can kind of eat you alive at times, it feels like. But I got through it, and there was a phase where, I was doing okay, and I ended up becoming one of those people that's like functionally depressed. Just like, he's kind of, I was just doing my best not to feel anything, because I'm very much one of those people that's always either feeling nothing or feeling everything, which is generally quite a difficult personality to have, and it's always been a challenge. I think that's, a lot of people have that, but a lot of people aren't able to they don't want to admit that, because you're always up and down and you've always got things going on. But for me, it was one of those situations where I just was trying to feel nothing, because feeling everything was I couldn't do it at that point. But once you go through a period of trying to avoid that and trying to kind of pretend that you're all right and everything's fine, I just got in a routine where I was going down every day to the shops or the train station, just thinking about it. I was thinking about not doing this, whatever this whole thing is life anymore. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like overbedding. It wasn't like, too much for me to handle. I just would, by the time I'd get there, I'd forget about it, kind of thing. It would just kind of be to the back of my mind. And there's a lot of people like that. And the reason why it becomes from that to something like suicide is because one day it all kind of comes up. And for me, it kind of came up in a really extreme sort of way, where everything just, for whatever reason, not only just the kind of death of my nana, obviously, but like letting the team down at the football, and then kind of all the insecurities that I felt from just my whole life, and how I was sort of seeing myself in the wheelchair, and how I had a really bad perception of what I was able to do and how I was able to live my life. So all these different things from school, from every area of my life, all came up at the same time, and it was far too much for me. It was an unbelievable, overwhelming feeling, where I couldn't do it. I decided that night that I was going to do it. I was going to do it, and I went down to the train station because I just was. See, the thing is, as well, where we're really actually talking about suicide in itself, the whole thing about that is we have to start talking about it in a better way. It's not a selfish thing, and what I mean by that is it's not even you. You don't even feel like you're you. You're just your mind just totally sort of turned its back on you, and it's not who you are. It's just your mind has got all these negative thoughts, and you're not able to control it, and it becomes overwhelming to the point where I wasn't thinking I'm going to go down there and kill myself. I was thinking I'm going to go down there and hopefully do something that stops the way that I'm feeling right now, because it was too much of whatever it was that you're talking about, like too much hurt or pain or whatever feeling. It's a very difficult feeling to describe and very difficult thing to put into words, but all it was all very much too much. And I went down there with the intention of, doing what you would think, and I just remember being at the station, just sitting there for 10 minutes, waiting for the train to come by, and totally convinced that I had no reason not to do it. And I think I've been really rattling my brain about the best way to put this, because I don't want to sound like a pure religious person or spiritual person, because I don't think it's necessarily to do with that, although it could be, you never know. But I was just thinking that that kind of negative voice in my head was very loud, and I was very much losing the battle with my mind, in a way, if that's a good way to put it. And I'm at this train station, and I'm just thinking, I'm going to do this. I can't do this anymore. Because all you're thinking is everyone's better off without you. You're not thinking this is going to hurt X, Y, and Z, or people are going to be devastated by this, or whatever the case may be. You're just thinking you're not going to be a burden to people anymore. Do you know what I mean? But it was more than that. It was that, but also just an overwhelming sense of not being able to deal with whatever emotion it was I was feeling. I tried to fight it myself for so long that it became too much. And what actually happened was, I'm sitting there and I've got no reason to do it, no reason not to do it in my head, and I'm just going. But for some reason, I just couldn't get Superman in my head. I know that sounds like the kind of cheesiest thing in the world to say, but yeah, just thinking about how, I think, well, that was always going to happen at some point, wasn't it? Because you kind of when a feeling's like that, like kind of that strong, you just kind of you remember what it was like, but these are kind of, I'd like to say these are happy tears in a lot of ways, because she just, I think the reason why I say it's not a religious thing or whatever it is, I just think she just ingrained this thing in me where it was like, it was just, you can beat anything. And that used to be, it used to be kind of the at that time, it used to be when I was younger, the first voice in my head was a positive voice that said you could beat anything. And I just forgot. I just forgot what the world kind of made me forget. So, in that sort of moment, I was like, well, you can't think about that and not turn back. Just because, it's like every part of me wanted to do it, but I was just like, you need to see if what she was saying was true. You can't, if I hadn't thought about that, if I was just all negative thoughts, I would have just done it. But that thing, because she ingrained it so much for so long, was just still lingering there, and it was able to kind of stop me from doing that. So I very reluctantly, and despite all that, it was very reluctant because I stayed there for a long time. But then I started thinking about scenarios like, what if she is trying to tell me something? What if it is like that? And what if, like, imagine you do this and then she's like that. Why didn't you listen to me? But so I had to turn back, but at that moment I thought I was still going to lose. I thought I was still going to do it one day. I just decided that I'd get to the next day. But that, once I got to the next day, it was like, I was still bad. I knew it was still bad. But I knew that it was never going to be as bad as that moment was, So I didn't turn back from me. I turned back because somebody thought I was Superman. So I had to give it another go. And the point of me of really saying all this is that from that day, it was kind of, I was able to kind of push back and sort of figure out things because all those feelings came up, and that's what happens. I don't know. I'm not a mental health professional. I'm not qualified, but I'd imagine when people do things like suicide, it's that kind of overwhelming moment. And in some ways, I feel like I got lucky because I'm still here, and not, So, and I definitely would have been one of those guys that everyone would have said, I can't believe that guy did that. And I knew that I'd be one of those guys, but it didn't matter to me at that point. Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're not doing it to hurt anyone else. You're just doing it because you can't do it anymore. But when I turned back, I left that day and I was like, now that I know that I need to give this another go, I have to look at things and look at what I'm doing and try and reassess. So, I dealt with that, but I was still obviously not doing well and still kind of taking over, but started to do things better and watch it, because it felt as if, I think that was the way I had to see it. I had to see it as if I was doing it for her, because there was no other sort of reason. And I know I had, my family are amazing and stuff, and I'm really grateful for every one of them, but at that time, it was just that particular scenario she was the one that came through. And leaving that, I decided that after having that feeling, I didn't want anyone ever to have that feeling, which years later led to me doing a podcast. But I think the biggest reason why I just put myself through feeling again to tell the story was because of the fact that I thought for years I thought like she was trying to be my hero. She was trying to help me through these things, but it was never. Anytime I tried to compliment her, it was never. She would never take it. It was always you're the hero. You're the person that can do this. And I think she knew that my life was going to be like, not financially or in terms of family, it was great, but just in terms of how the world sees wheelchair users, it was never going to be normal. And she knew that, and she ingrained that into me, and it saved my life. But one thing that I've realised is that she wasn't trying to be my hero, she was trying to show me that I could be my own. And I know that sounds like the cheesiest line ever, but I swear to God, that's just always the way that I've seen it. And now that I think the reason why I was telling this story and why I've been wanting to do it was because not everyone has that person to say that they're Superman or whatever your thing might be. And we all need that sometimes, but the most important thing that I want to tell you is that, and what she was trying to tell me is that it's not anyone else. I went on antidepressants and done therapy and ate healthier and done all this stuff, and it's all very important. That's all very important. Don't not do that. Definitely do that for sure. But I did all that, and I was still just not. I still just felt like I was going to die by suicide. That was what my that was how I seen my life finishing. Because I just didn't believe that I could in myself, really. And so I'm saying all that stuff is very important, but what she was trying to show me is that it's in you. It's not to do with anyone else, because it wasn't, somebody didn't pull me away from it. I was there myself, and I turned back. And if I can do that there, you can do it as well. That's what I'm trying to say. And right now, the world's in a really kind of weird. I don't like it. I don't feel too great in this, to be honest, in terms of like just the world in general and how I feel on a day-to-day basis. And that's why I've kind of been putting this off, but especially just because I knew it was going to be fairly difficult for me. But I wanted to do it because I wanted people to know that when we don't have that person, that I now know that it was always within me. It was never that she was never trying to show me that like, she was never trying to inspire me or be something. She was just trying to say, you can deal with anything, you can do anything. And that wasn't something I really actually believed until after that. Until like, a couple of years, like a year or two after that, where I started to be like, she was right. And it all came, the way I feel now, the things I've done in football and life and how, the life that I'm leading, is all came from being able to turn back that day and just give it another day. And it's important that you know that despite all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world and maybe the different reasons you have for struggling mentally, you can just always beat it. And it's always going to be within you somewhere. You just have to find that thing. Whether you know what you're doing now or you don't, whether you've got a big passion you're chasing or you have no idea what you're going to do, there's something within you that nobody else can do. You are uniquely unique. Like, there's so many people in the world, but there's so many different people. That's the thing. Everybody's different. Everybody's literally scientifically been proven to be different. It's amazing that we keep talking about how everybody, you hear about all these people that want to be normal, like me when I was younger as well. And we all kind of, to an extent, just want to be in the group and want to fit into these things, and it's just a natural instinct. But we are all different fundamentally, and you have, you might not have your nana telling you you're Superman, but you have something there, and it's it doesn't have to be from anybody. You can know within yourself that you have enough. That's what I'm trying here to say is, I'm trying to tell you that if you don't have that person, that you have enough within yourself to deal with that situation. Just get the support, get the help, but you can do it, and you've got the thing that you need that no one else has to deal with that situation. And I'm very grateful and happy to be sitting here and like being able to live to tell that story, and not live to tell that story and hope that it saves somebody else rather than not being here. And when people say that suicide is like a selfish thing, or depression is like selfish or it's just not, it's got this really big stigma towards it, and obviously it's not a good thing. But the point is that the way that we're talking about it is what's making people, still feel like they can't be themselves, despite all the social media, despite all this kind of stuff around, try to be equal and talking to each other and let's talk mental health, let's talk. And yet you see the suicide rate, depression rate rising every single day. So we're obviously not doing something right, and I think ultimately that's due to the fact that we don't embrace that we're different, and you're always going to have these different situations. They come up in life, they're going to affect you in different ways, but you get to choose how you deal with it. And that's something that took me a long time to realise that. And I'm just sitting here thinking, I was thinking about what I was going to say for ages before I came here, because so many people messaged me about what I said in the first one and how he spoke so well and it was quite a good flow to it and all that. And I was like, man, when I decided what I was going to talk about, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get through that without getting kind of crackly voiced and overly emotional. But that's another thing as well. It's not a bad thing to cry either. It's one of the best things that I just realised when I realised going through all this was that crying was actually a really healthy thing. At times, acting a big man and the stereotypical way that you're supposed to live your life, when you can just do whatever yours. Like, at the end of the day, you have to accept the fact that bad things are going to happen in life, and it's going to hit you when you probably least expect it, like it hit me, and I didn't handle it well, and nobody really does. But the point is that we have to normalise that. We have to normalise the fact that difficulty and hardships are a real thing. That is part of life. With good comes bad, and it's just inevitable. But the bad can really make you able to develop yourself in a big way and develop a character. Because that's what it's done for me, is that it's made me want to come on here and help and potentially try and help somebody that's going through a tough time. But what is your fundamental character? What do you believe is the right and wrong? And once you figure that out, once you figure out what you're about, you're able to digest the bad with the good more and figure out the right way to go forward. I'm not saying that right now I'm not the finished article by any means, but I'm at a point at least where if I get to a place what's bad and I know it's bad, I know what I can do I know what I need to do to get back on track, which is something I never knew before. And that's, you can get loads of different help, but for you as an individual, it's really important to figure out what your day-to-day things are that can help you feel better in those moments. For me, it's like if I'm having a bad day and I go on and jump on a handbike and do half an hour, I feel much better than I did the half an hour before. Or something as simple as that. It doesn't have to be the gym, it could be anything. It could be drawing, it could be watching a show. Do you know what I mean? Just figure out what works for you. And it's not as hard as figuring out what you like and what you don't like isn't as hard as people make it out to be. You just have to sort of acknowledge the fact that there's maybe something going on with you, and you need to figure out what you're going to do to kind of overcome that. And when I was talking about when I was talking in the first episode about all these things, I didn't feel ready to talk about the stuff I've talked about today because it just felt like it was too much. And even as I've talked about it, even as I've finished talking about it, I'm still kind of thinking, that was a lot. My mum's going to hear that. Do you know what I mean? But it doesn't matter about the people that don't like it. It matters about the people that listen to it and get something from it that could help them get to the next day. And this is what I'm trying to tell you, is that you can do it. It's not, you feel like it's impossible. Like, I'm not saying, because everybody feels everything differently, so I'm not saying anyone out there's felt exactly the same way I've felt. All I'm saying is that whatever that bad bottom of the pit feeling is, I know what that is. And you feel like it's not something you can beat. And you can. And it's inside of you right now. And you just need to figure out things that can make you find that. I was lucky. And all I'm trying to do is relay that luck to somebody else in the hope that they can get lucky as well. And maybe not, you know, because you can do, you know, like I said before, everybody's got a different purpose and you've got something to offer this world that no one else can do. And that's what's really kind of special about this whole crazy life that we live in a way, is that you can just do anything. It's mad. People say that to you when you're like a wee guy, and you just think, it's nonsense. These old people talking absolute shite all the time. But then you grow up to realise, actually, do you know what? You can do anything. You can do anything. You just have to get... But the world gives you, like, these different, like, anxiety and all these different factors that come at you that you don't expect. And it's just about how you can figure out what is the reason that you feel like you're here and what can you do with that. And don't stop thinking that you can't go for it, because you can. That's the whole reason why you're here. And I've really enjoyed doing all these podcasts, and to be at number 20 now is a really cool thing. I've got a lot of good ideas for next year, and hopefully that will be a really good year for us all as well. Hopefully the COVID thing, I know that announcement the other day wasn't great, but hopefully we start to get back to some sort of like regular society, because I know it's difficult. But anyone that's struggling right now in lockdown, you need to remember that you are, however difficult it's got before, you're still here. And if you've got through it before, you can get through it again. That's something that to me, that experience is overwhelming and as painful as it was. There's never going to be anything I can't do. Like, I was really nervous about going in here today, because I knew it was going to be really personal, and I knew I wasn't going to be on my own. Shout out to Paul. But I knew that if I can get through that, I can get through anything. And if you're not going through this now, and you're just kind of, you need to be aware of the fact that there are people around you that will be at that point. That's how common it is. You know, there will be a friend of yours that's struggling and needs your help. And if you're just kind of doing what I was doing and sort of trying not to feel things, you need to realise that that's going to come up at some point. And I'm not basing that off any sort of qualification or anything, just purely my personal experience. And all I'm trying to do here today is say that you can basically be your own hero. And as cliche as that sounds, it's so true. And I happened to witness that in a way that I thought would be worth telling today. I thought I would be able to tell it a bit more, I don't know, smoothly or confidently or comforting, because some people said to me that they found the way I talked about it before comforting. So I was trying to kind of come in with that same sort of way of talking, but I knew that it wasn't really going to be possible with this type of thing I was going to talk about. And now I feel completely full of life. I feel like I still have daily struggles, but I also when I talked about like the football thing, for example, like every single one of those people that have football in the powertrain football community, honestly, they will always get my best on and off the pitch in every sort of way I can do possible, helping them in any way I can, and also just playing the best I can for them on the pitch, because I know that brings smiles to people's faces, and that's what's important, and I'll do as best I can. But I just want to say that I really appreciate anyone that listens to the podcast, and I just want to make it as good and big as I possibly can, just so that more people can hear these amazing stories from people that don't usually get the chance to tell their story. And that's what it's really all about. That's why I'm not trying to be, the best podcaster so that I could be, I'm Keaton Burns, I know what I'm doing, I'm the most amazing person. It's not about that. It's about wanting the next kind of people that are in my position to have a fairer chance, to have a fairer voice. And that's where the passion comes from, like knowing that they deserve to have a better way of going through life than I did when I was younger, and the way that I felt about being a child. You don't need to feel like that, and that's why it's really important to me and passionate to me and personal to me that I make this as big as possible, because people tell you like there's no point even trying, because no one wants to listen to people talk about disabilities, or people talk about disabilities and mental health. Who's going to listen to that? It's not something that gets any sort of attention from mainstream media or anything. So people say to me like, there's no point in doing this. Nobody's going to listen to it. Nobody's going to care. And I don't believe that, because everything's impossible until it's done. And I'm just trying to bring our voice more to the table. And I hope that whether you've got a disability or not, if you're listening to this and you're struggling just now, you can take heart from the fact that I can beat it, you can beat it, and we can all beat it. And if anybody is struggling just now, genuinely feel free to contact me, or anyone, just tell anyone. It takes so much weight off your shoulders once you just admit that you're not feeling great. And I have a lot more things to work on. I know that, but I have exciting things like captaining the Scotland team in February. There was genuinely one of the happiest feelings I had in my life. I was like, this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. It just felt euphoric, and that really spurs me on to make sure that I've give my best and show that I can do more and more. And I think with disability particularly, we all kind of limit ourselves, but you should really, what I'm starting to realise is that it's an open platform for everybody. Like anyone can start a podcast or anything. You can do literally anything, regardless of any sort of physical thing. And I'll do my best to make our voices heard as much as possible, and help end the stigma around mental health, especially in a time like this. But I hope that somebody somewhere was able to take something out of this. It wasn't the easiest thing to record, but I'm kind of proud of myself for getting through it, to be honest. So there's that. So at least there's no one to listen to it. I can be proud of myself for getting through it. But 20 episodes, and this will be the last one of the year, because of the fact that the one that we were going to record is 3 guys at once, and it's just like because of the COVID situation, kind of need to let that die down a bit. So this will be number 20, will be the last one of the year, and we'll be back either the first or second week of January. But again, I really, honestly, it means this has become something that means the world to me. I don't even know how it happened, but I feel like I've referenced the first podcast a lot, and it's the last time I'll do it. And what I'll say about it is when I done it, I turned my phone off, and I was so nervous, because I just was like, I've never said anything like that to anybody ever in my life. And the response I got was so like so many messages for people that didn't want to, you just wouldn't expect, being like, just saying thank you and for saying that, and it really helped me for this, and I really took a lot from what you were saying, and it made me feel like I was doing exactly what I was supposed to be doing. Like the feeling it gave me was just a different type of feeling than I'd ever experienced, and it is something I will keep doing, and we will get, I'll get more comfortable, I'm sure, as we go on, and I really appreciate anyone that shows any support. So thanks for listening to all these episodes, and this particular one, which I know wasn't exactly the most cheery one, but I really hope that, you can take something from it, and it can all have a good Christmas and New Year, and it's all going to be good. But I think that'll do for episode 20, and I'll see you in 2021.